For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Capital Calculus. This is the show that examines policies and perspectives through the intersection of politics and economics to share with you a fresh perspective every week. I am your host, Anil Padmanabhan. India's unique digital economy is poised for another audacious act. In the next few weeks, its Open Network for Digital Commerce, or ONDC, will be rolled out. It proposes to rewrite the rules of engagement between buyers and sellers, making e-commerce that much more accessible and inclusive. Especially the kiranas are familiar neighborhood stores that are normally at the bottom of the food chain. ONDC is powered by another digital public good called the Beacon Protocol. It is nothing but a bunch of interoperable protocols that enable discovery, engagement, and fulfillment in the business of buying goods and services. Now, how does it work? Let us take a look at this video sourced from Beacon Protocol.
We constantly seek digital access to so many stores, restaurants, and other businesses in our neighborhood. However, with a gazillion commerce applications out there, we are often unsure about which app or platform to use to place orders on. Can't imagine installing them all for sure. But what if? What if a business that's listed on any platform is accessible from any application of your choice as a customer, and not just access, but even place an order from? Sounds crazy, right? Well, this could as well be the future of digital commerce. Thanks to Beacon, an open protocol that's designed to reimagine e-commerce. So what exactly is Beacon? Is it an app, or a super app, or a platform? It's none. Well, it's a set of well-defined open specifications particularly designed for digital commerce transactions. Imagine it to be like SMTP for email, or HTTP for the internet, or the most recent one, India's UPI for payments. With Beacon, small businesses can be present on any platform and yet be discovered by consumers anywhere on the platform of their choice. Consumers can buy from any merchant through any application. Beacon cuts the barriers to entry for businesses, new or small, empowers all types of e-commerce platforms to force multiply their user base, and most importantly, gives consumers great ease in carrying out digital shopping for numerous purposes. In essence, Beacon is a universal protocol to make the world of digital commerce a lot more accessible and inclusive, thus creating large open commerce networks.
The video from Beacon Protocol makes it clear how India proposes to hit the reset on e-commerce. To understand the how, what, and why of this reset, I spoke to T. Koshi, who is the CEO of ONDC. I began by asking him the very basic question: what is ONDC?
Okay, so let me explain to you. ONDC is not another platform, but it's idea of a network. Let me go a little specific on what the network means. Today, we are familiar with digital commerce by certain platforms. These platforms provide complete end-to-end service from seller interaction, seller interface, logistics, warehousing, payment, buyer interface, and everything. And so if you are a seller in one platform, you can only talk to the buyer in that platform and vice versa. So what we are expecting is by using this protocol, the platforms or applications become interoperable. So what does it mean? That if you are a seller in any platform, you are visible to buyers in any buyer platform. And if you are a buyer in any platform, you can discover seller in any platform. So what this would also mean that the buyer application and seller application need not be under the same legal entity or under the same uh, network, I mean, same infrastructure. It could be owned by two separate entities. So, for example, let's say banks. Today, banks have a lot of consumers, but they are unable to extend e-commerce to them because they don't have sellers in their platform. Uh, so tomorrow, if the sellers are available on the network using this open protocol, the banks or the telcos can make their customers discover these sellers on the network. So that is the whole idea of ONDC, which would mean that there could be specialization happening at the seller side or on the buyer application side, because the buyer application will now truly become agent of the buyer, and the seller application will truly become the same agent of the seller. And none of the platform has an advantage because they have a captive users, because the users are openly available. So what is going to be driving the seller side platforms and the sellers will be what is the area of specialization, what they have to offer. So it is not the captive users what is the determinant of success, but what is a special thing that you have to offer.
According to Koshi, neither the buyer nor the seller is bound to a dedicated site. This is because the underlying public digital rails provided by ONDC makes these platforms interoperable. In short, both a buyer and seller are platform agnostic. I asked Koshi to share an example to explain this.
If I just give you a quick example in the information dissemination, which is Internet 1.0 time, if you have whatever that you want to present to a website, to the internet, if you create an HTML page, you are visible to every browser. You don't have to register to Chrome or Edge or anything like that. Similarly, any browser can discover any HTML pages. So in the case of digital commerce, now this is becoming possible that any buyer application can discover any seller application sellers and then enter into a contract, and the whole order fulfillment can also be handled between this buyer and seller. So that is a conceptual arrangement for ONDC.
So what Koshi is saying is that ONDC is solving for interoperability and discovery by unbundling the transaction. Exactly how UPI unbundled a transaction and unified payments. So I asked Koshi, how will this play out for ONDC?
Let's look at in a commerce three elements, three building blocks of transaction. One is buyers should be able to go and search for the products and buy a product. Two, a seller should be able to display their catalog to be discovered by any buyer. Third, a logistics person should be able to transport, if it's a physical good, from the seller to the buyer. So in the current platform, all these are in one platform. When you say we are able to unbundle, in this case, all three can be under three separate platforms and three separate service providers. But the interoperability enable the service providers to stitch the transaction end to end so that the end consumer and the end seller will have seamless commerce possible.
So Koshi has neatly laid out how ONDC proposes to disrupt e-commerce. I asked him to explain with an example.
Let's say that one smart startup develop a portal to help the Lucknowi silk producers to display their catalogs onto the internet. Today, if they do that, they may not be able to be discovered because they have no captive buyers, or getting buyers will become a challenge. Tomorrow, this agency, if they make the catalog visible on the ONDC network, will be visible to all buyers coming from all buyer platforms. These buyer platforms could be telcos, fintechs, banks, and so on and so forth, who are only giving a buyer interface. helping the buyer to make a search and choose a product they want. So we have unbundled the buying and selling. Now the logistics also similarly is a service being available. So the seller might be able to buy a logistics service online back to back when he has a offer, order to buy from a buyer. So that's how each of these elements have now gone to the agency who can be specialized and expert in that and service any platform irrespective of whether they have captive or not.
Essentially, ONDC is democratizing e-commerce.
Exactly, you have got the right word. When I said democratize means every seller has equal opportunity to be discovered, independent of which platform he's associated. But that doesn't mean that everybody will have the same market share. If one seller has something better to offer, more people will buy from them. So democratization is the opportunity for demonstrating and offering what one is good at. And then based on that, he will build up his market.
In other words, in the post-ONDC world, anyone can buy anywhere or sell anywhere.
Absolutely. Now, anybody who has something to sell, it could be product, it could be service, can make their product available in this network. And now let us take a little, do a thought experiment. Let's say that telco, I'm just making theoretical explanation. Telco decided that he want to offer their consumers a variety of e-commerce option. It could be to buy goods, it could be buy tickets, it could be to buy homestay, it could be book a taxi, it could be to book uh, you know air ticket. It doesn't matter. So because all of them are available as products or services catalog using this ONDC protocol. So it's only the telco enabling their buyers to discover all the services. So what you said is true. It will break down the silos and provide opportunity for service providers to stitch variety of products as he would like to and make an offer.
Clearly, ONDC has the potential to dramatically grow the e-commerce pie. At the moment, it is less than 10% of total retail in India.
Eventually, the network will become a mechanism to be discoverable and enter into a transaction. So that's the ultimate expectation. So it will become another channel. So what we expect as a probably like you very correctly said, now it's only 5 to 7% of commerce is in digital form. That may in the next 2 3 years it may bump up to 15, 20, 25%, and so on and so forth. And the seller side, we will see a much larger explosion from 1% to maybe large number of sellers will be able to make their catalog visible because it is not too much of an expense. There will be a lot of specialized startups and platform providers who will come and say, okay, I'll help you with a standard solution to make your catalog visible. So I will expect a larger participation from small, medium, micro enterprises in addition to the large enterprises making their products visible in the network.
The growth may be higher if we factor in the network effect, especially keeping in mind that ONDC proposes to onboard a range of small entities, including Kirana stores, who are at the bottom of the pyramid and numerous. Remember UPI? It started out with mere thousands, then rose to millions, and subsequently accelerated to billions. Last month, it touched 7 billion transactions. The growth has been nothing but exponential.
Our long-term mission is that every seller of a product or service will be able to make their products and service catalog visible in a network which is open to every buyer. So, which would mean that this will become an extended channel and not a area of some specialized agencies. So when that happens, and when multiple buyer applications do come in, and making it possible for what diverse kind of buyers to search for the products and services of their interest, you would see level of participation rising exponentially. If you remember, when the same thing happened in UPI, 4 years ago, the total digital transaction used to be something like 250 million transaction in a month. But when we had something like an open network making multiple mechanism to access this financial transaction, From 250 million, it went to 7 billion in a matter of 4 or 5 years' time, which is essentially what we call a network effect. So, in the current model, network effect forces concentration into few people, but in the not open model, network effect will uh, result in exploding participation by the seller and buyer, and the adoption and the penetration of this rising exponentially in the next few years.
The big question in my mind was, why would the big incumbents like Amazon and Flipkart buy into an idea of ONDC? After all, they spent millions trying to build this proprietary empire of theirs.
I will not discuss either of them. But the way I am seeing, if I again go back to the UPI world, if you remember, there were some existing platforms then, correct? And it would have been, not an exciting proposition for them to consider open platform coming in. But eventually they realized that platform has only exploded the market size, not that it cannibalized anybody. Even today, if you look at the old people, still have similar or even similar kind of growth they are showing. So in that way, we are not cannibalizing or in competition, but we are a inclusive agenda. So the people, they're like I said, there will be 5-star people and the 3-star people all existing together. So I think that existing platform understand this, and as and when ONDC become a reasonable sized activity, they would realize that if they do not form a part of it, their sellers and their buyers will may not find it as exciting as before. So they will naturally, in my opinion, want to be a part of this network, and all the chats that we have had and the public position that I've seen from them corroborates my theory.
It is then clear that Koshi believes that ONDC will democratize and revolutionize e-commerce. It is not just about expanding the pie to include the bottom of the pyramid. It is to absorb the big incumbents like Flipkart and Amazon in the new playbook. Indeed, if this happens, India's unique digital commons would have pulled off an unprecedented first, making big tech part of the solution. That's all for this week. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Strat News Global on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. And please do share your feedback and ideas with us. You can reach me on Twitter at Capital Calculus, and I'll be back next week with another episode. Till then, stay safe.